Well, guys, it is Thursday, which means it's time to hang out with only the best. That's what we bring on the Joe Raineri Show, and there is none better than Wager Talk's Ralph Michaels, who joins us via the Miami Acura hotline, doing double duty, man, working on college basketball, and, of course, now we've got college football and the NFL. Ralph, have you slept at all this week?
You know, to me, the sleep doesn't matter, and getting off to a good start actually, helps a lot. When you're putting in the hours and you have success, you don't mind putting in those extra hours. If it's ever one of those seasons where you get off to a bad start, it's tough to do. Keep putting in that work, knowing it's going to turn around, but off to a great start this year in both sports. So November's always a great month.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're excited. And tonight, listen, we've got college football and the NFL. We'll start college. I don't understand this line. I mean, I guess I understand it, but it keeps creeping up and up. We've got Wake Forest taking on NC State. The line is up to 19.5 right now. NC State laying 19.5. And I understand that last week, Wake Forest, they ended up losing more than just to Syracuse. They lost their starting quarterback to a leg injury, and now they've got a sophomore in their place, but 19.5 points, almost 3 touchdowns, for Wake Forest. Is that just too much?
Well, obviously I don't have a play on this game, but I think I would still have to lean with North Carolina State.
Wow.
To me, they're a player that, Ryan Finley, an experienced quarterback, getting it done. The rush attack hasn't been well, but Wake Forest's defense has struggled. A 21-point win against Florida State is impressive. And you look back, you beat Boston College at home by 5. Again, that was a very tough game, but you had a 215-yard edge. You were minus 3 turnovers. And you beat a very good Virginia team at home by 14. Your 2 losses this year are on the road at Clemson, which everyone's going to lose to on the road at Clemson, and at Syracuse, and Syracuse is a very much improved team. So, to me, I like the way NC State is playing. I think they can get it done. I think both their offense and defense can excel tonight and actually bring home the cover.
All right, there you go. A game tomorrow night, Ralph. Interested to get your take on this. I had it circled on my card, but listen, it's Louisville. So anytime we get a chance to bet against Louisville, taking on Syracuse, at Syracuse. Syracuse, another one of these double-digit, minus 21 right now. I don't think it's moved since, but minus 21. Dino Babers, 3rd season. Listen, Louisville seems to be a mess. There's rumors of Bobby Petrino being outed after this year. Do you like this game? What do you think of it?
I have a free play written up at Wager Talk if people want to go hear the write-up, but it is on the Syracuse Orange. And to me, Louisville has just quit. You look at their defensive numbers, what they have allowed the last 4 weeks, and on the road this year, they were allowing 68% completions, 292 yards rushing, 6.5 yards per carry. I don't think there's any way Petrino is with this team next year. I think he's lost his team. I don't think there's any way you can get it back. And now you have Dino Babers, who's turned Syracuse around, and he did the same thing at Bowling Green. In his final year at Bowling Green, he went 7-2 ATS as a favorite. Now it's revenge for a couple seasons where they went 4-8. They have the better team. They have an offense that, Eric Dungy was a potential all-ACC second or third string quarterback, but Tommy DeVito is so good, he's now starting for him, moving the offense. The defense is improving. I'm going to lay it again. Again, rare for me to like back-to-back big favorites, but in these 2 cases, I do.
Yeah, listen, it's all about value, and nobody finds it better than Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Make sure you guys head over to wagertalk.com and visit the Cal Sports page. Another game tomorrow night, Ralph, also extremely interesting to me because we never see this. And that's Boise State being a home underdog tomorrow night against Fresno State, everybody's darling. It's +3, +2.5, depending on the book right now. Boise State, can you remember the last time Boise State was a home underdog?
Yeah, this is the 3rd time since 2000. So in 19 seasons, They've only been a home dog twice, and the last time was 2005, I believe, to Washington State, and then one other time early in the 2000s. But they were also home dog in the bowl game against Boston College in 2005. But we don't count that because it wasn't regular season. But I love this Fresno team, and they are a legitimate team both offensively and defensively. If you go back this season, I clearly have them as the best group of 5 team. Their only loss was by a touchdown at Minnesota, and if you remember the highlights for that game, it was probably one of the best interceptions I've ever seen by a Minnesota DB to save that game and give Minnesota the win over Fresno. Fresno's defense has held 5 of their last 6 opponents to a season low or a number 2 low. They're only allowing 300 yards per game, and this has been the most profitable team in football. They are 18-3-2 against the spread. So in their last 23 games, 2 of them have been a push, 18 wins, 3 losses, and because it's Fresno, because it's out west, because they don't get as much publicity as some of the other schools, these lines are still reasonable. Fresno also has revenge for the Mountain West championship game last year that Boise beat them in. They should have had home field edge, but the Mountain West had some weird rules. It all adds up to me, and Fresno gets the revenge and wins the Mountain West.
Wow.
Basically has control of the Mountain West to go to the championship game.
All right, man. Big push for Fresno State, and Boise State is, well, we'll see how they react. That is for sure. A game here in South Florida. I've been getting a lot of grief for this, Ralph, because, I've been hard on the Miami Hurricanes, and deservedly so. I mean, they're coming off of 3 consecutive losses to Virginia, Boston College, and Duke, even though it was almost a hurricane there. But I can tell you this, Ralph. My sources are telling me he has not lost that locker room. These kids, unlike Bobby Petrino at Louisville, they have not quit on him. He has not lost it, even though he's juggled the quarterback situation. Georgia Tech on the road. Miami is getting 4 points here, and I love Miami in this position. What do you think, Ralph?
Well, I think you and I are going to have to bet a beer then, because I'm going to lean the other way. Now, I don't love Georgia Tech, but I certainly have an opinion towards Georgia Tech. Miami's offense bothers me. I can understand switching quarterbacks, but the way he's been switching them for these games, you scored 13 against Virginia, 14 against Boston College, 12 points against Duke. Either quarterback cannot go out on the field and have the confidence that they're going to be the quarterback in the next series, the way they've been getting pulled. So that's a negative for them. And then you look at the Georgia Tech option. The option, you can look at Navy's records over history. You can look at Air Force. You can look at Georgia Tech's. The option always gets better later in the year because the timing between the offensive line, quarterback, running back on those pitches gets better. You get better making your cut blocks on the O-line. And those situations, as the season progresses, when you get into November, those teams have a history of performing better. And now you're playing your 3rd road game in 4 games for Miami, and you're mentally tired after 3 losses. Now your D-line's going to worry about getting cut blocks, and there's a different mentality when trying to defend the option this late in the year. To me, again, I'm going to lean with Georgia Tech in this one, and next time we meet, we'll have a beer to pay off one way or the other.
Well, listen, I'm drinking scotch, so to hell with that, Ralph. You can have your Miller Lite. I'm going scotch, my friend. But you know what? You're on. I do think they have the athletes to be able to handle that triple option. But it's going to be a fun game, and if they don't win soon, they're going to run that team out of town, the fan base. I can tell you that. One of the other fan bases that doesn't think they can be beat, and with good reason as well, and I don't know that they can. Alabama, Mississippi State, 25.5 points, 26 in some books. Are they just unbeatable, Ralph? I mean, does Mississippi State, granted, great defense, but Fitzgerald hasn't lived up to the hype. Can they do it? Can they pull the upset here against Alabama?
Well, it's simple for me. This Alabama team is as good as any team I've ever seen. I've been handicapping power ratings for about 18 years in college football. And I always start my power ratings at 100. So whenever I start the year, the top team, no matter who it is, gets a rating of 100. Therefore, I can always gauge it from one season to the next, and it gives me an assessment of how good a team is. Well, Alabama right now to me is 128. That's 10 points higher than any team that I've ever seen, and that was the USC Bush Linehart team that was very good. This team, I would make a 10-point favorite over them on a neutral setting. But, you know, if you want to, you need motivation to cover these big spreads. The thing I would do in this game, and it's been successful all year, Alabama is 9-0 against the spread in the first half. They don't pull their foot off the gas pedal. They play into that half full born. They keep that tempo. They try playing as hard as they can. In the second half, they start making some changes. As long as they have the lead, they're fine with that, and the other team often covers in the second half. So to me, I am not going to step in front of Bama, but I would have an opinion on Bama in the first half, again, where they're 9-0 against the spread this year.
I'm wondering, the team that many think is really the only team that can give Alabama a run for the money, Clemson, finds himself in a tough position this week, Ralph, taking on a Boston College team. Let's face it, you know, Clemson destroyed Louisville last week, but who hasn't? BC continues to roll. The interesting part to me about this game is Clemson is now up to 20 points, 19.5 and 20. Clemson laid 17 on the road against FSU. Boston College is way better than what FSU was bringing to the table this year, and they're only getting 20 points in this situation. Do you like Boston College to possibly, I don't know, throw a few bucks on the money line here? You think there's a chance?
I like Boston College with the points. I don't think I bet the money line because Clemson just has too much potential. But Boston College is another team that people don't talk about. Well, how about if I told you in Boston College's last 19 games, they're 16-3 against the spread.
Wow. Again,
Again, you don't hear about them. They're a running team, but you know Anthony Brown is one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC with a 16-5 ratio. A.J. Dillon is one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the ACC. He missed a couple games. He still has 900 yards, 5.5 yards per carry. You got a defense that just held Miami of Florida to a season low, held Virginia Tech, held Louisville to 217 yards, Virginia Tech to 392. So Boston College, to me, is a solid play as far as the dog goes. I mean, again, anytime you want to take a dog, if you want to sprinkle some points. But, you know, Clemson and Alabama are those two teams that are just too good that I don't think they lose this year.
I also think a very dangerous one of the top 4. And did you see anything with the committee this week? Were you shocked with what came out with the top 4 teams, or is that pretty much where it should be, Ralph?
You know what? I don't concern myself one bit.
Love it.
With any type of rumors, with the coaching. It has nothing to do with how I'm handicapping a game. Now, I will look after the fact, and if a team is motivated because they're lower, obviously that's news to me that I'm going to use for handicapping. But as far as what they put out in general, that's something that if it doesn't help me handicap a game, or if it doesn't give me information while I'm handicapping, then I just ignore it. It means nothing to me till the end of the year. So,
love it.
LSU's maybe higher, but you know, you see the bias. You see the bias with LSU being there, with Mississippi State and Kentucky. Obviously, the committee's in love with the SEC. But again, it doesn't matter what happens now. We've seen a lot of changes in the last few weeks, so I'll wait till it pans out in the beginning of December.
My alma mater, I got to ask you before we switch over to the NFL, because I've been at a number of these games. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma, Bedlam. Oklahoma State just shot themselves in the foot last week between penalties and turnovers, and they lost against Baylor. Oklahoma is cruising. We know this. The mullet, Mr. Gundy, there is 2-11 in this game, but I got to tell you, it's at 17.5 and 18 in some places. That is an awful lot of points for this kind of rivalry game. What do you like with Oklahoma State, Oklahoma this weekend?
This is another game that, would be near the bottom of where I have as far as strength goes picking a team. But I've been asked this game on a couple radio shows, and when I gave my final assessment, it was a lean on Oklahoma. And the reason for me is this, is you look at Oklahoma State's body of work on the road, and they go to Kansas, they were a favorite. They go to Kansas State, they were a favorite. They go to Baylor, they were a favorite. So now for the first time, they're actually having to travel with Cornelius as the quarterback, a 12-8 ratio, but so much different on the road. And now they're actually a dog. So to make 3 road trips and be a favorite in the Big 12, and you still lost 2 of those, that to me is a struggle when you're going to go on the road. And again, anytime you have an in-state rivalry, there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of recruiting on the deck, and right now, they seem to be pulling the same trigger. So, again, normally, if you say to me, if you give me 10 rivalry games, I'm going to be on the dog probably 7 of those because there's such an advantage to the underdog in the rivalry games that the line isn't adjusted as it should be. But I just can't trust this Oklahoma State team because, again, all 4 non-conference games were at home. Their 3 road games were as a favorite. So this is such a unique situation being this late in the year and being a road dog for the first time.
Well, then I got to ask you one more then. The double digits here in the Iowa-Northwestern game. Northwestern is on a roll, and yes, Iowa is a good team at home, but we're looking at 10.5 here, Ralph. 10.5. Is there some value in Northwestern in this situation?
Anytime you have Northwestern, you're going to want to say, hey, I'm back in the dog. The Wildcats are now 24-9 against the spread as a road dog the last 11 years, and they've covered 8 straight as a road dog. Why? Well, Fitzgerald is an excellent coach. Northwestern is a school that you have to be smart to get into. His play calling on defense is sophisticated, but they're very good at it. They don't turn the ball over. They force some turnovers, and that's exactly what you need when you're going to back a road dog, a team like Northwestern. I do back the Wildcats this week.
All right, there you go. He is Ralph Michaels. WagerTalk.com. That is where you go, and it should be noted for those of you that are just joining us. Ralph Michaels, one of his fortes is college basketball. We had him on the show on Tuesday this week. He gave you that play at Ball State, and they ended up winning by double digits there, which was fantastic. But he has the opportunity for you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Ralph, at WagerTalk.com. They can go to the Cal Sports page, and they have the opportunity to, they can buy a single game, they can buy a season. There's all sorts of availability and packages on how they can get involved with you on both college basketball and football, correct?
Well, there is. And even, a couple things people don't know. If you're a college basketball fan, even if you're not going to buy my plays, if you go to Wager Talk and then you go to the Cal Sports page and scroll down, you see my last 20 plays. You can click up and you can still get my write-up for those games. So even if you're not buying my plays and you want to see how I did the day before, you can go in there, you can read my write-ups on the games. If I have any systems or angles, you're going to be privy to them and be able to use them the next time. There is a special available now. It's not advertised, but we'll mention it here. Normally a 7-day all access. That means you're getting college football, the NFL, and college hoops for 7 consecutive days. Mm-hmm. That package is normally $99. If you use the code TV59, you'll get 7 days of all my sports for $59.
Wow.
That's normally the price of a 3-day package. So if you're interested in that, wagertalk.com, go to the Cal Sports page, go to the 7-day all access. It'll say $99. When you click on that, it'll ask for a code if you have one, TV59, and it'll save you $40 off that $99 cost.
Listen, we only bring the best of the best here on the Joe Raineri Show. So if you have an opportunity for $59 to get a week's worth of plays and a week's worth of knowledge and information from somebody like Ralph Michaels, then take advantage of it. Head over to wagertalk.com and do it. Let's switch over to the NFL. Thursday night game, a very interesting Thursday night game. This line opened up rather quickly. Pittsburgh, a 5-point home favorite, but we started to see an awful lot of money come in on Carolina and the points. I think we're at 3.5 right now. Carolina, the underdog, the over-under is at 52. Listen, they're prime time for Carolina. They're not generally good in this situation on the road. This is their first primetime game, short week. What do you like? What don't you like in this game tonight, Ralph?
Well, again, that's the big disadvantage of Thursday, as you mentioned. It's a short week, and people don't talk about that enough. Yeah, they're playing on Thursday, but, these NFL players are creatures of habits. They play on Sunday. They know what they're going to do when they're warming up. They know what they're going to do on the road. Now you throw a Thursday road game in there. You're short couple days of practice. You're traveling here. You're playing in a hostile environment. The crowds tend to be a little louder. They have a little more alcohol in them, and they know they're in the national spotlight. But with that being said, I look at Carolina, and, yeah, they have 2 road losses at Washington and Atlanta, and 2 games they could have won both of them. They had a significant yardage edge in Washington and were basically even against Atlanta. But I like the way the defense is playing. You look at their defense, and over the past 4 weeks, they allowed a season low to Tampa, a number 2 low to Baltimore, a number 2 low to Philly, a number 2 low to Washington. They're allowing about 300 yards per game their last 4 games. Now, with that being said, it wasn't enough for me to pull the trigger because I look at Pittsburgh and you look at what they've done. Situationally, though, Pittsburgh is off Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Baltimore. You just took control of your division by winning 3 straight division games, and now you host Carolina, and then you're going to play Jacksonville next week. So situationally, because of the schedule, I favor Carolina. Because of the short week, I favor Pittsburgh. I've gone back and forth in this game, and even though both defenses are playing well, both offenses are improving, and if I had to give you anything on the game, and again, it just because it's on Thursday night doesn't mean you should be playing it if you don't have a strong opinion.
Great.
I would lean with the over, even though I talked about the defenses of those teams, because the defenses can struggle on a short week. It's more physical for them to rebound. Pittsburgh's offense at home is completely different on the road. They move the ball much better. So, again, the slightest of leans for me, and it would be on the over.
He is Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Before we get to the next game, I want to know, Des Bryant, a New Orleans Saints, does it change anything in your opinion about this team?
I think it's a positive, and just simply because you have a hierarchy there that is set, established, and little waves aren't going to make a difference. When you've got Drew Brees and you have Sean Payton and you have experienced receivers, Michael Thomas has been there, Benjamin Watson has been there, and Kamara is new, but Ingram has been there a few years. So you have a set of players that know the guidelines, and when a player like Des Bryant can come in, perhaps if he was on a younger team that didn't have that experience, he could be a distraction. But with this type of leadership, it's either, we're giving you a shot right now to play on one of the best teams in the league, the second favorite to go to the Super Bowl, a team that just beat the Rams. Now you're coming in and you can be a significant player. And, Des Bryant has to be ecstatic. I mean, he talked about going to the Browns, but now, Michael Thomas has as many receptions over the last couple of years as anyone, and averaging 11.5 yards per carry. So Michael Thomas is going to get double teamed. So you're coming in with a Hall of Famer quarterback, Drew Brees, a running game that's doing very well with Kamara and Taysom Hill, and you're going to be the number 2 receiver. You can't ask for more than that. There's times when, as far as an Eagle goes, you want to be the number 1 receiver, but there's times when you're coming in like this and you want to potentially sign a big contract in the future, being the number 2 receiver and not getting double teamed you can't ask for more than that.
Now, having said that, in a very unique situation here on the road against the Bengals, who just seem to be in total disarray. A.J. Green's not going to be there. You're looking at 5.5 points. The Bengals are going to be a home underdog, over under 53. Is this kind of a trap place for the New Orleans Saints right now?
Well, Cincinnati is playing like I thought they would be. They surprised me earlier in the year playing well. But, Cincy is 9-1 as a home dog against NFC opponents. You're going to have temperatures in the 30s or 40s, so you're going to have some wind. Breeze is not going to be able to do what he does in the Superdome. And I don't know how the Saints get up for this game. I mean, you just went to Baltimore and won. You went to Minnesota and won. You hosted the Rams in what could have been the biggest game of the year. And then you have Philadelphia, the Super Bowl champs, at home on deck, and then Atlanta on deck. This is one game that, are there trap games in the NFL? Well, yes. I mean, it's tough to be emotionally charged for all these games, and I could see this, especially if there's a little wind and cold weather, to be a spot where, they may eke out a win, but I wouldn't back them certainly as an away favorite. Therefore, if I had to make a lean, it would be with the home dog.
There you go, Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Make sure you get there. Take advantage of the opportunity for you guys to be able to cash in on the picks there. Fantastic website. Make sure you go to Cal Sports page there. You'll have the opportunity, not only college football, the NFL, but also college basketball. Here's a game, too, that I circled, Ralph. Seattle catching 10 points against the Rams. You want to talk about in a interesting or kind of letdown spot here. The Rams are at home. Both teams coming off losses. The Seahawks killed themselves last week, but can we really lay double digits against Seattle here if you want to back the Rams?
Russell Wilson has been an excellent dog in his career, and this is the largest underdog role he's been in. And, you want to talk about the Rams, you just played 4 road games in 5 weeks. You played at Seattle, at Denver with altitude. You traveled to San Francisco. Then who's your one home game? Oh, my God, it's Aaron Rodgers coming to town, and that game ended up being a 2-point game. And then you go to New Orleans and you lose. Now, in the long run, I think the loss for the Rams are good. I mean, I don't think it's good to get cocky down the road and think we're unbeatable and have that pressure of saying, hey, can we be like the Dolphins and be undefeated? You have that loss in, and now, boom, your focus is going to win the Super Bowl. But, again, to me, this is a tough spot. You are on the road at New Orleans. You're hosting Seattle. You already beat Seattle on the road. Now you have them at home. You're going to Kansas City next week, which could be one of the highest totals in the history of the NFL. A couple places here opened it already at 70 for that game in a couple weeks. But, you also have to look at this now and say the Rams have played 9 straight games. Seattle just had a bye a few weeks ago. That's a big edge when you get to November and one team hasn't had a bye and one team is much fresher. Again, a situation where the Rams got a chink in their armor, and this week I could see another chink. I don't think they'll lose the game, but again, I would grab the points in this one.
Yeah, and, my team, the Jets, we know Sam Darnold is not going to be playing. It's the AARP game where we have a 100-year-old McGowan taking on a 105-year-old Anderson. Bills, Jets. The over-under is 36 and a half in some spots, which is just embarrassing without there being some sort of weather issue. What do the stats tell us? If anybody will know the trends and things like this is a ridiculously low number in an era of offense here. But if you're a contrarian, you're probably going, these two old guys are going to go out and light it up, and that'll be the end of it. But what are your thoughts on an over-under of 36 here in this game?
Well, isn't that funny? We just talked that there's going to be an over-under of 70 in a couple weeks, and here we have an over-under on the opposite spectrum. Anytime you have a game and it's this type of total, I'm looking back right now since 2000, since the year 2010, the totals of 36 or less have gone 6-5-1 over under. So they've gone 50-50, but it shows you there's only been 11 in those 8 seasons, so just about 1 a year, sometimes 2 a year. But a lot of those, as you said, were because of those Buffalo games in December where we couldn't even see the ball. You expected those 13-9 scores and things like that. So historically that number doesn't tell us over or under. But again, most of those times it's because one of those teams, again, there's either a weather issue or those teams have very good defenses. I don't remember a total this low because both offenses have been historically bad. So the Bills, 13 points or less for a 6th straight game. Oh. Peterman throwing interceptions more than, some quarterbacks throw passes. And, again, if you said who do you like, well, when you have two bad offenses and you're getting that many points, I would have to lean with the dog with Buffalo. But, again, you look at that team, it's just so hard to do.
Yeah, no, it is hard to do. And one final one before we let him go. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Speaking of bad quarterbacks, Monday night, Eli Manning taking on Nick Mullins. Who? Nick Mullins, who impressed the entire world last week. Primetime game. Nick Mullins seemed to be a world beater, even though he only beat the Raiders. You're looking at the Giants laying 3 points here. San Francisco getting 3. Is there any value in betting the Giants in this particular situation?
I'll tell you what, being a first-time quarterback, coming out and having an impressive first game does not surprise me at all. Wow. This is a kid that was at Southern Miss, broke all of Brett Favre's records at Southern Miss, but he was a quarterback that took the snap out of the shotgun and was learning how to take snaps. Well, San Francisco now is a 3.5-point favorite in this game, and NFL defensive coordinators now have a week of film on Mullen. That's a big difference. We saw that with the Jets when he took them to Detroit and won the opener, then he struggled. Mm-hmm. We saw that with the Browns with Mayfield. Had a good first game, then started to struggle. Now that you have a week of film on this guy, I see a completely different scenario. You have San Fran, who's 2-9-1 ATS as a favorite. You're laying over a field goal. I will take the Giants as the dog in this game.
Wow, love that. All right, there you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, again, you got to remember this Giants team has been playing bad, but, Eli Manning was capable of having a good game occasionally, and then, you add a dynamic running back to the mix, and he breaks a couple plays, and all of a sudden, again, an entirely different story for the Giants.
Yeah, it so is. It's going to be a lot of fun this weekend, certainly being able to watch these games. Do yourself a favor. You still got time. Get over to WagerTalk.com. Take advantage of the special one more time. Ralph and I, give us the code. Let people know. Go to the Cal Sports page, okay, at WagerTalk.com, and normally you get a 7-day pass. It's, $99, but you have an opportunity to get all the sports, everything that you have to offer for just $59. Is that correct, Ralph?
It is. You'll go to the 7-day all access. It'll say $99. You click on that box, and then when you get inside that box and you're putting your information in, it'll give you the place to put a code. Use the code TV59, and boom, you're going to get 7 days for under $10 a day.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. $8-9 a day. I know you got it. All right, so go into the pocket and go there. Do yourself a favor. You'll make 100 times that taking the advice of the guys at WagerTalk.com. He is Ralph Michaels. Make sure that you guys follow him at Cal Sports LV. Ralph, always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. We'll talk to you Tuesday for our college basketball rundown, but enjoy the games this weekend. Good luck. We'll talk to you then.
Appreciate it, Joe. Always a pleasure.
You got it. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com.